So some of you might be new to Stata, but I assume that you have previous knowledge of statistical software. And Stata sits somewhere between SAS or R, which are mainly language-driven programs. So you have to code, you have to write all the commands, and SPSS, where you can do most of the things through menus. So as I said, Stata sits somewhere between, because it actually has its own language and you can write each one of the commands, but you also can use the menus, which are not as user-friendly as the SPSS, but you can do most of the statistical procedures through the menus. Okay. Given again that some of you might be new to the program, I'll use the menus, and once you've selected the procedure, you'll see that the command is actually written in the Stata output. So this is a way of learning the Stata language. Okay, so just a brief overview of the program. Either if you're using a PC or a Mac, this should be the screen that you see when you open the program. So there's several sub-windows. So the main window, which is the results window. There's a sub-window here with the variables. At this point there's nothing because there's no data loaded, but this will be the variable names, the properties of each one of the variables. And here you have the command sub-window, where you can actually write your statistical commands. And on the left side you have the history of those commands. Okay, so I'll start by importing a data set. Actually, I'm going to import a data set that I've used in the slides for the first lecture, a subset of the bone mineral density data set that you'll be using for the exercises in this week. And the data is stored in a CSV file, sorry, and you can do an import text data to import this data. So file to import, I'm going to choose the BMD restricted. Again, this is a subset of the data set that you'll be using for the week exercises. And as you can see, the software recognizes the different variables and it's already organizing them. So actually we don't have to do much here. You can just do OK. And the data set was loaded. You can see the Stata code for the import of the data file. So this is the command import and then the data file. The variables have been loaded, so the data set is already loaded in the program. And actually you can see the data either in the data editor and the data browser. The difference being between these two, that in the data editor you can actually change data and change variables and so on. And the data browser can only see the data, you cannot actually change it. So I'm going to just go and press here in data browser, and you see here the data set that has been loaded with different variables and so on. Okay, there's going to be a few issues when starting to work with the data, because the categorical variables were imported as strings, and you might want to convert this to numeric categorical variables, but we'll deal with that later. Okay, so now going back to our main window, let's suppose that we just want to compute the mean age and mean height of the individuals in the data set. So I'm going to use the menus. Going to use the menu statistics, and this is a summary statistics, so it should be somewhere here, summary and descriptive statistics, and here we go, means. I'm going to press here in the means, and now I just have to choose the variables that I want to use for the calculation of the mean. So it's age, and let's see, I believe I said height. Okay, so I'm choosing these two variables, and if I'll press OK, I'll get a table with the mean, also the standard errors and confidence intervals, but the mean for age and height. Okay, and again here is the command that produces those means. So if I actually write this command in command window, so mean of age and height underscore cm, I should get exactly the same thing. Okay, so this is the code to produce the mean for two variables. So the last thing I want to show you is sort of a diary that you can produce to store the commands, to store your analysis or the different commands that you use when analyzing the data. So this is something similar if you're familiar with SPSS syntax. Instead of writing one command of each time, you can actually write a program code for the entire analysis. And so for that, we'll have to open or to start a do file. It's called the do file here, that diary. So it's blank now, but if I write anything here, it will store as a Stata code, and at any point I can execute one or the entire list of commands. So let's, given that we know already how to produce the mean of a variable, let's say that we want the mean of age, and then in a separate command the mean of height. Okay, we've done this before, but let's repeat this, and let's just run the first line, so the mean of age, and I can come here to the do, sort of the execute, and if I press, it's been executed, and in the results window you should see the mean of age. Okay, now if I wanted to execute everything, select all these and again execute, and having an error because I've misspelled height, so I go back to my code, correct that, and again I'm going to execute everything again, and hopefully now it's correct. So I get the mean age and the mean height into separate tables because there were two separate commands. Very well, so this should just give you an overview and a point to start with the program. The first exercises for this week really try, they are not specific to the unit, but really try to give you some key points about how to perform certain analysis with Stata. So if you're familiar with the program, you might want to skip them, otherwise really attempt to do it because they are an overview of statistical procedures with Stata. Good luck.